To my fellow Canadians, I ask you this. Are you concerned about terrorists right now? If an attack happened tomorrow, would you be surprised? Or not? And ask yourself, if you were told that it was done by the Islamic State, would you agree to a bombing campaign in Syria and other areas of the Middle East in order to eradicate this great evil? In today's video, we're going to show you who the real enemy is. We've already shown you how ISIS is a creation of the West, but today it should become perfectly clear that in the face of modern-day terrorism that is soon to come here in Canada, it is CSIS and the RCMP who should be suspect number one. The Mounties may be guilty of knowingly facilitating a terrorist act, says a BC Supreme Court judge. This started back in 2013 when the RCMP set up a high-profile terrorism sting operation looking to persuade a couple of young hooligans, John Nuttall and Amanda Korody, to conspire to commit murder, specifically blowing up the BC Legislature building on Canada Day. Now, we here at PFT have covered this before quite extensively. Here, Canadian terror plot exposed as RCMP setup. And also here, Canada Day bombing foiled plot or CSIS setup. And here, and also here. And now, while the two victims of RCMP entrapment were found guilty in the BC bomb plot, Justice Catherine Bruce is now expected to rule that the RCMP is also guilty. In my view, the defense have raised at least a prima facie case that the RCMP officers involved in Project Souvenir were engaged in unlawful acts during the undercover operation, wrote Bruce, referring to the operation by its code name. So in a nutshell, without the aid and funding of the Queen's Gestapo, Nuttall and Korody wouldn't have had the knowledge or the money to detonate a homemade pressure cooker. The lawyers for the two confused and coerced victims are arguing entrapment, that the RCMP manipulated the pair into carrying out this terrorist act, which would have never happened without the extensive help from the RCMP. The RCMP's undercover officers posed as jihadists, giving Nuttall and Korody food and clothing and cash and cell phones and bus passes and an external hard drive. And the RCMP worked with Nuttall and Korody on these plans and even a location to build these explosives. They drove them to the various stores to buy the bomb-making equipment. They even drove them back and forth from Victoria to the Lower Mainland over the course of a 4-month sting operation. It's funny, if I'm caught driving a known criminal around, even if I had nothing to do with his crimes, I'm liable for the charges. It's nice to see a BC Supreme Court judge put the RC's feet to the fire, make them accountable and restricted to the same laws that we serfs are bound by. The judge has ordered confidential RCMP documents to be disclosed because they provide key insight into the state of mind of all the officers involved in the undercover operation. For example, the undercover officers were told by their superiors to drive Target, but don't shop when purchasing the bomb-making materials. Now, of course, the RCMP may get off scot-free, but in her ruling, Justice Bruce wrote that there was evidence showing how the police ignored legal advice and how this relates to the seriousness of their misconduct. So, however this ends, this really just goes to show you who the real terrorists are. It's not even been a week after the Paris attacks, and a large amount of people are playing right into the power elite's hands. They're blaming Muslims. They're calling for more war in Syria, and they're calling for more state power, in other words. And what if Nuttall and Korody weren't the bumbling fools that they turned out to be? What if they were serious and they successfully blew up the BC Legislature on Canada Day with so many innocent people attending that status cult celebration. And then there's this. RCMP and CSIS support Trudeau's plan to resettle 25,000 Syrian refugees. Guys, do you really think that we can trust CSIS and the RCMP right now? If something were to happen, would Canadians blame the RCMP and start a revolution? Or would we blame the Middle East terrorists and support the state's wars of aggression with a larger police surveillance state right here at home? Well, the answer to that one, guys, is going to be up to you. Thanks for watching. Check the description for all the sources to this video and also for the links to where you can donate or join PFT as a member in order to support real independent media. So stay tuned, guys. We've got more video reports coming soon to pressfortruth.ca.